participants present here, and it is a very privilege for me to associate myself with such an esteemed organization, manage, and it is my privilege to just share whatever I know in this particular topic with you guys. So today I'll be talking about a little bit research data management and how we can increase the impact of our research data through research data management. So let me start my presentation. Okay. So my screen is moving, right? Yeah. So
Yes, sir.
today the agenda of this particular talk will be I'll introduce the topic, then I'll be a little bit talking about research data lifecycle, then what is research data management and what are the best practices. So to introduce the topic, just to set the stage. So what is research? What is research? We all, because this the whole topic here is maximizing the visibility of research. Okay, so I just thought of starting with what is research. So generally, it is we can say that it is the systematic or the scientific and the logical process, and we do research to generate new knowledge, concepts, theories, methodologies, etc. And the second question of reflection is what are the requirements for conducting research projects? So obviously we need funding, and without funding, I think we cannot imagine even a single research project. So funding is the major requirement for any research projects. Then obviously we need infrastructure, we need well-equipped labs, laboratories, we need ICTs, internet facilities, systems, then we need good environment, etc. Apart from funding and infrastructure, we need resources also, because without resources, we won't be able to see what kind of research that has been already done. So we need study materials, subscription to good databases and journals and documents, etc. Then apart from these things, there are some personal things also, some personal traits also that we require for research. That is the passion, the hard work, patience, motivation, confidence, etc. So these are all the personal traits that we require. And apart from this, obviously we need support from our peers, like the group we are working with, the parent organization where we are working, and the whole scientific community. So these are all the requirements that we need for a research project. So you can see that uh, how much amount of you can see the requirements are there so in place. And what are the outcomes of a research? So we need this, these are the things. And what are the outcomes of the research? So obviously it is the new knowledge, and it is mostly in the form of manuscripts, research articles, reports, etc. And there are other outputs also, like a research project may come up with some softwares, some recommendations, some tools, patents, etc. But according to my perception, according to my understanding, the most important outcome of a research is the research data. Okay. And why I'm saying this is we all know that all our outcomes are mostly based on the research data that we generate during the research projects. Whatever the findings you are claiming, whatever the insights you are drawing from any research project. So at the back end, it is the research data, it is the raw research data that you have collected in your research. That is the major factor behind all your findings, everything, whatever you are suggesting in your research project. So it is the research data that I considered as the most important outcome. And we all know that we generate enormous amount of crucial data during any research project we are handling. And especially in agricultural sector, I'll say keep, there are huge data that we are generating in everyday research projects. So this is just to set the context, like we are why we are talking like in this particular training program, why we're talking about research data and why we're talking about this like maximizing the impact or visibility of research data. Okay, so because research data is important and we need to give proper attention, proper importance to the research data. Yeah, so the research data, maximize the impact of any research project, we need to give proper attention to the research data. Then again, somebody can ask like, why is it important? So earlier we must have heard about this thing like data is the new oil. Okay, and obviously like we can just like give the analogy of data as the new oil. Um, as oil is very important for any economic growth or any industrial revolutions, so is data important for today's world. But nowadays, it is not said that data is the new oil. It is said that data is the new soil. Yes. So what is soil used for? Soil is used for some new developments, new growth, uh, everything. So similarly, data is also considered nowadays as the new soil, and this particular phrase, data is the new oil, has gone. Now it is considered that data is the new soil, from where you can take data, and that raw data you can process as per your requirement, as per your understanding, and you can generate some new things uh, using the research data. So that is why managing and properly organizing your research data is very much important. So yeah, going ahead, then the question may arise that how is it possible? Like how we can do this? So the answer, like simple answer to this particular question is research data management. Okay. So under research data management, what are the things that we need to understand? So first and the foremost important thing is understanding the data life cycle, because whenever we talk about research data, we need to understand the life cycle of that research data. Then generating data management plans. Okay, so whenever we plan for research data management, see this data management plan, DMPs is a concept that we need to understand, and we need to know what is the importance of DMPs, how to create DMPs, and how to submit research proposals along with these DMPs and all. Then this fair principles, making data fair. This is the need of the hour, you can say. And everywhere the organizations, the institutions, the funding agencies, everywhere people are very much compelling. I'll say compelling the researchers to make data fair, and making it bond fair is the best we can do. If we are generating a bond fair data, that is the best we can do. This is the best practice we can adopt. Then publishing data papers. Earlier, we were just reporting whatever the findings we are having in our research projects. But nowadays, we have the concept of data papers also. We can publish data paper also. And the last thing is the open mantra. Okay. So like we need to support this open science and open the concept of open science and the open data. So these are some of the ways we can improve the impact of our research data, because research data is the most valuable thing that we are getting from our research projects. So I hope I'm not going too fast. Is it okay?
It's completely possible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nitish. So I'll move forward, and I'll just discuss a little bit about research data lifecycle, because whenever we talk about data, so it is the data lifecycle that is very prominent, very important. So what is research data lifecycle? So it represents all the stages of data throughout its life. Everything has a life cycle. We also have a life cycle. Everything, whatever we see, that has a life cycle, and whatever we exist, that comes to an end. So similar is the case with the data also. So a data life cycle represents all the stages of data throughout its life cycle, from its creation for a study to its interpretation, distribution, and reuse. And it provides overview of the stages involved in successful management and preservation of data for use and reuse. Okay. So why is data life cycle important? So I'll give a scenario. Okay, you just can think of this. So if you give your data to a scientist or colleague who has not been involved with your project, will they be able to make sense of it? You can just think of this question. Okay, suppose you are involved in research project and there are some other colleagues, they are not aware of your research project and they are not working with you. And if you give your uh, uh, like uh, data to them, will be they able to make sense out of it? So will they be able to use it effectively or properly? So the answer to this question will be, without the knowledge of data lifecycle and data management processes, it is not possible. They won't be able to make sense out of it if you have not managed your data properly, if they don't have the knowledge about data lifecycle and all. So again, why manage data? So benefits that we get from managing data is, so it will benefit us also and our collaborators. Okay, so establishing how we will collect, document, organize, manage, and preserve our data at the beginning of our research project has many benefits. Okay, because suppose you are working in a team, and if you have well-defined plan like how we are going to collect the data, how we are going to document the data, like whatever the metadata standards we are going to use, how we are going to organize, manage everything, where we are going to store or archive the data set. If you have everything planned beforehand, before starting the research project, that is going to save a lot of time and energy on your data management processes. It enables more focus on the research because you don't have to hustle here and there for searching for your own data sets, different versions of data sets. If you manage it properly, so it will enable more focus on your research, and all your collaborators will be on the same page. They'll be able to communicate better because everybody is aware of all the plans, whatever you are doing. So, and it is easy for our collaborators to understand, find, use, and analyze. So it is going to benefit us and our collaborators. Apart from that, it is it is going to benefit the scientific community also, the other person also who are not involved in the research. Ideally, data should be managed so that any scientist, including the collector or the data originator, can discover, use, and interpret the data after a period of time has passed. I'll say, like, if you have not managed your data properly, after certain period of time, once your research project is over, after 1 or 2 years, even if your project is going on and you have done your research data collection at the beginning of the project, after 2 years, if you need to again go and visit that, so many things you won't be able to recollect if you have not managed that data properly. So either you are giving your data to somebody else, either your data like somebody else is using your data, or you are using your own data. If you have not managed it properly, it is of no use, I'll say. So it is going to help you, your collaborator, the whole scientific community. And after managing the data, we are going to be fair compliant. Okay, fair is what everybody knows the term fair, that is findability, accessibility, interoperability, and reusability. And it is a new trend that we need to comply with. So I'll be talking about this particular fair in detail in the next session that I have. So by that time, just think of this fair thing, and I'll be talking about more in the next session. So again, so this is the simplest data lifecycle model that we can see. So you can see here, it starts with, and it's a cyclic process. It starts with design, then we go for collect, process, analyze, preserve, share, and then reuse. Reuse is the most and the ultimate thing of all the research data management practices that we are talking about, that we are advertising or popularizing this particular research data management thing. So reuse of data is the ultimate thing here. Okay, because all the exercise, whatever we are doing, so we should be effectively reusing the research data. We should be effectively, optimally using the data set. That is the ultimate goal. Okay. Again, so there are different data lifecycle models. So I thought of just picking one of the models and explaining it. So this is USGS Science Data Lifecycle Model, and you can see this model. It has two kinds of elements. First kind of elements are called the primary elements, and you can see the plan, acquire, process, analyze, preserve, and publish and share. These are called the primary elements, and they are something called the cross-cutting elements. So you can see here, describe, that is the metadata or the documentation part, or the manage quality, or backup and secure. These are called the cross-cutting elements. So cross-cutting elements are what? So those elements that we require throughout the different phases of data lifecycle. So this describe is required for the planning phase also, and for the acquire phase also, for the process phase also. Managing the quality is required for all the phases: plan, acquire, process, analyze. Backup and security is required for all the phases. So that is why these particular elements are called the cross-cutting elements. Okay, so I'll explain one by one. So the first primary element is plan. So how to plan? Okay, like whenever we have to conduct a study. The first thing we need to go do is creating a data management plan. Okay, and we need to define the roles and responsibilities of data stewards. Like whenever we are taking any research project, we have different roles and responsibilities. We have principal investigators, we have co-PIs, Then who will be handling the data, who will be the data manager, whether we are going to involve our data librarian also. So these things, all the roles and responsibilities, who will be handling what, that should be clearly defined. Then developing data sharing agreements. Okay, after the project is over, how we are going to share the like acquired data sets. So those agreements, those policies need to be in place beforehand, before we are going before we are actually going for the data collection part. Then understanding data access controls and copyrights, how data will be accessible to others, what controls you want to keep with you, what control you want to give to the original user of the data, or what copyrights thing that you want to implement. These things we need to plan beforehand. So this is the plan phase. After planning is done, we go for the acquire phase. Acquire is nothing but the data collection phase. So now we need to think about methods for acquiring the data. Okay, how we are going to acquire the data set. Then the security requirements for data acquisition, what data standards we are going to follow. Okay, using data templates, like if we can create it is going to be very useful for the surveyor also. Am I audible? Is it going well?
Yes, yes, sir. Now you are audible.
Oh,
Yes, sir,
okay.
you are audible.
Okay. So, did you miss something?
No, in middle there was just
Okay, so
we are on
this
the
part was clear, right? This
acquire.
plan.
We were on the acquire.
Okay,
We
okay,
were on
okay,
the acquire.
okay, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Okay, I'll just repeat it again. So after planning phase, all the planning is done. We need to go to the acquire phase. This acquire phase is nothing but the data collection phase, and we need to beforehand decide like what methods of acquiring data set will be following. Then what are the security requirements we need to take in place. Then what data standards we are going to follow. I'll be talking little bit in detail about this also in the later slides. Then if you can have some data templates also, what file types we'll be using, organizing files and data, how we are going to organizing, like if you're doing some survey research or your questionnaire based research, how you are going to organize the respondents, whatever you are receiving from the respondents, how you are going to organize and put it in your format. So these things that we need to keep in mind while acquiring phase. After acquiring the data, now you have data in your hand. Then comes the process phase. This is also one of the primary elements. Then comes the process phase. So once you have data in your hand, so we all know that data is always not in the form that where we can directly go for the analysis. Okay, there are some missing values, there are some redundancy, there are some kind of issues with the data sets. So what we need to do is we need to first validate the data, whether it is every like we need to be assured whether all uh, the data has that much of quality that it can go for the analysis phase. So we need to validate the data, summarizing we can do, transforming the data in your format, whatever you want it to be, then integrating if you need to require to integrate some data set, the integration of data sets, subsetting of data sets, deriving of data sets. We need to do some missing value treatment. We need to do some like these are the all the processings that we need to do before going for the actual analysis phase. So this is the actual analysis phase. Once you have collected your data set, you have processed your data set, all the problems, all the issues related to your data set that has been fixed. Now we can go for the analysis phase. So we can have statistical analysis, we can have visualization. There are um, as per the requirement, we can do spatial analysis. It depends on your data also, what kind of data you have, and based on your data type formats, you can have different kinds of analysis, different kinds of visualizations you can create. So this is the analysis phase. Once you have done your analysis, then comes the important portion, important phase, and this is one of the very primary, or we can very core part of research data management, the preservation phase. Here, uh, we need to do data archiving, okay, because here we are preparing for the future use, the reuse. Okay, once the research project, we have done the analysis, we have done your reporting, or you have published your findings. Now preservation comes, and this is what we are doing for the future use. So we need to archive our data, we need to deposit it in some repositories, and we need to find out suitable repositories for the data. And after this preservation, publish and share. Why share your data? We need to be very clear about this. USGS data release process. Data release is the USGS term for data publishing. Okay, so just to clarify this, so USGS define this data publishing as data release. So we need to release the data release. They have given some data release processes also. Then we need to take, while publishing or sharing our data set, we need to take care of the sensitive data also. Then whether we are attaching the DOIs, digital object identifiers, or not, how data citation will be given, whether it is uh, indexed in some data catalogs or not. So these are the things while publishing or sharing we need to take care of. So these are this is a very one of the basics and one of the important data lifecycle models given by USGS. And these are the primary elements. Apart from the primary elements, there are some cross-cutting elements that I was talking about earlier also. So as described, these are the activities that must be performed continuously across all stages of the life cycle to help support effective data management. And what are those cross-cutting elements? The first one is the describe. At each stage of your data lifecycle, we need to describe, we need to attach metadata, we need to give documentation, what we are doing. We need to, if we have the proper documentation, then later on the use will be very effective. If you're collecting your data set and you have documented how we are doing this, if there is some note is there, if some comment is there, if you're managing that thing, later on after half an year or 1 year or 2 year after that, you will be able to recall that whatever you have done, how you have done. So description of the data set is very important. Attaching metadata is very much important. And for that, we need to decide about what metadata standards you are going to follow, how you're going to describe the metadata and all. So after description, manage quality. So from the beginning only, if you are concerned about the data quality, it is a very good thing to consider, because we all have this kind of issues during research projects when we go for collection of data set. So we basically don't bother that much about the data quality, and later on we all have that uh, tiresome experience working with the data set, cleaning the data set, okay, because we are not bothered about earlier, okay, this managing the quality. So data should be data quality assurance should be there, and you need to plan for this. So throughout the data lifecycle, the data quality should be managed. Backup and secure, this is again very important, because if you're collecting data and you have lost, like suppose half of the survey is done, and because of some technological error or some irresponsible behavior, if you have lost the data, then all the work, all the hard work, passion, whatever resources we have used, that I was discussing, what are the requirements for the research that I was discussing, all will go in vain. So we need to have a very concrete plan for backup and secure, how we are going to secure our data set. And this is again throughout the data life cycle that we need to take care of. Okay. So I hope this research data lifecycle is a little bit clear to all of you guys. Now we can move towards research data management. What actually is research data management? So again, there are some questions for reflection for you guys. What happens to the research data after the research is over? Okay, so can you think like I don't know about the audience, like whether you are involved in some kind of research or you are managing your data, research data or not, but a general consensus, at least in India, whatever the practices we have right now is, after the research is over, we publish the findings, but we don't basically bother about the research data. It might be lying on your computers, on your systems, but it is not accessible to the public. Okay, there are various concerns about that we'll talk later also. So the question is it managed, archived, or preserved properly? I am sure that most of the answers will be no. Is it available for reuse? Again, I am sure that the answer will be no. Is it made fair compliant? Again, the answer will be no. Okay, so it is the case with research data after the research is over. Are we doing the research data management properly? So again, this is a responsibility to the data managers, to the data librarians, to us, the library science professionals. This question is for us. Are we doing the research data management properly? Is the robust RDS research data services implemented within your institution? So this question, I think, allies professionals should ask themselves what services should be implemented. Like in a library, in a information center, we can have this research data services. Okay, this is a new kind of services that libraries are offering, and what services that we can implement, how we can assist our researchers in providing a robust research data services, that we need to ask to what skills and expertise that is required and to implement this RDS and all. So these are the some questions for reflection before going to research data management. Okay, so now what actually is research data management? So this is key to make data fair. Okay, so if you're doing this research data management, so I'll say we are like taking a step forward to make our data fair, and it is across domains. I'll say not only library sciences, not only agriculture, not only medicine. It is across domain. All they have like 80 fields. I'll say there are other than 80 fields also that UGC is conducting across domain. RDM is among the most prominent and agile research areas right now, which has had a large number of studies done and is still being pursued. And in the agriculture domain also, I'll say I have experience with working with one of the very premier organizations in agriculture research. I hope all of you must be knowing that organization, that is called CABI. Okay, so when I was working with CABI, so they have a separate team for this research data management and data policies and all. And I was working with that team. So this is a very, you can say, prominent, a very agile research area in all the domains. The whole concept is built upon three core components, which is self-explanatory. So it is research, then the data, and the management. So we all know that what is research, we all know that what is data, and we all know that what is management. So together, if you'll combine research, data, and management, it becomes research data management, and it includes necessary steps, measures, and strategies to manage the entire research data lifecycle. So if you're like taking necessary steps, measures to manage our data in the entire research data lifecycle, we are doing the research data management. So these are some of the definitions given by, you can see this, the first definition is given by National Library of Medicine. So it is saying that, I'll just read this definition. It is self-explanatory. Research data management is the organization. You just focus on the words, whatever they have used, okay, then it will be easier for you to understand. So RDM is the organization, documentation, storage, and preservation of data resulting from research processes, where data can be broadly defined as the outcome of experiments or observations that validate or it is in the form of documentation, images, audio, and video. So you can see the spectrum of research data. It can take any form, whether it is images, audio, video, or qualitative or quantitative data. So it includes all kind of data. Okay, and like it is proper organization and the management of the research data. Again, IGI Global Dictionary also explains this. It is an integral part of the research process, helping to ensure that data sets pertaining to a project are properly organized, described, preserved, and shared. By involving the care and maintenance of the data, this particular word, involving the care and maintenance of the data, RDM is exercised in the course of the given research cycle. Okay, so this we need to give proper care, proper attention, proper maintenance to our data. Okay, if we want to comply ourselves to research data management practices. So these are some of the prominent definitions that I wanted to share with all of you. Now we'll come to some of the best practices throughout the data lifecycle that I was discussing a little bit during discussing the data lifecycle. Now we'll talk in detail. Okay. So if you have any question, keep those questions with you. After the end of this talk, we'll discuss. We'll have a discussion on this, and then we'll discuss. Okay. So some of the best practices at different phases of data lifecycle. So I'll be taking that the simplest data lifecycle I have shown earlier, this one, and based on that only I'll be suggesting some of the best practices. So I'll be taking this data lifecycle, and based on that only I'll be suggesting some of the best practices. Yeah. So first thing is I'll be combining two of the phases, that is design and collect. Okay. So for these two phases, what we need to do is, first thing is plan for data management during the conceptualization of the study. So before even you are going for the actual study, when it is in your idea plane, it is at the level of your idea. So you need to plan for the data management. Okay, and for that there is a concept called data management plan. I'll be discussing about that also. There is a concept called data management plan that we need to develop. Okay, so to develop data management plans, we have various data management plan tools. Okay, that we can implement. Some of the tools are DMP tools, DMP online, DSW, that is called Data Stewardship Wizard, then EZDMP, and there are various tools available to create a data management plan. Unfortunately for India, we don't have any tool that is customizable according to our demands, our requirements. So for India, we don't have any specific tool. But yeah, we can use all these tools, whatever name I have taken. So this DMP tool is from, I think, UK. No, DMP tool is from USA. Then DMP online is from UK. So other countries, other counterparts of India, they are doing very much good in particular phase. But in India, we have not yet started with this particular concept data management plan. But soon, I think it is going to come. Then collect data in standardized format. Whenever we are going for collection of data set, we need to follow the standardized approach. Okay, we need to use the uniform vocabularies and variables. So what will the benefit for this? Okay, if you are using the standardized format. So whenever you use standardization, so it negates the redundancy, negates the duplication, anything. Okay, so whenever we use standardization, it is going to be very helpful for us. Okay, then enable data validation during collection of data. Suppose if you are doing some survey or some questionnaire, and if you are using data validation at the collection of data, then the chances of entering the wrong value, or the chances of entering the very some outliers coming, so that will be negated if you are using the data validation. For example, suppose if you're collecting the age of a person, and if you have given the age should be between if you're like it is children, if you are collecting data for children, it should be between 10 to 18 years or something like that. If you have given the range for that, if you have given the data validation range for that, so there is no chance that it will go beyond that. So these kind of things that we can implement while collection of the data set, and we can use various tools for that. So there are some tools like data scribe is one of the tools. Then we can use XLS form format in any spreadsheet tool, whether it is MS Excel, Google Forms, LibreOffice. So this XLS form format is a format that we can use in spreadsheets to create standardized questionnaires, or to create standardized survey forms and all. Okay, and then there is another platform called ONA. Okay, so that we can use. And especially for the agricultural research, there is a tool called AgroFilms. I don't know whether you guys are aware of this tool or not, but there is a tool called AgroFilms, and I'll be discussing more about this tool in my next session, when I'll be talking about So am I audible again? I heard some song.
Yes,
Nitish,
sir,
am
you
I?
are audible.
Okay,
Uh,
okay. Is it going fine, right?
yeah, is it going fine? I would request it to be little better if you switch on video. I think some network issue there. Sometime your video is going and coming again. So
Okay,
only
my
audio
video.
will be fine.
You're
Hello.
talking about my video, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
actually, I am joining from one of the guest house. I've come for
so
some workshop also, so might be some network issues there. But I hope my audio is audible, right? And
audio is
slight
audible. I just request you to switch off your camera so it would be best.
oh, okay. I'll
Yeah.
switch off my camera. Okay, yeah, correct,
Thank
correct. The bandwidth issue will be gone. Okay. Yeah, okay. So I'll just continue. So for design and collect, these are the best practices we can have. Um, and if you are doing this, obviously the impact of our research data will be increased. So going forward, so comes the process and analysis. We can club these two phases, process and analysis, because we'll be playing with data set now. Once the design and collect phase is over, now we have data, the raw data in our hand, and now we'll be playing with the data set. So for playing with the data set, before going for the actual analysis, we need to process. Again, I have already explained that we need to go for the processing of the data sets. So first, what we need to do is we need to check for any possible irregularities in the dataset, whether the dataset has some missing values, whether it has some duplicates, some redundancy, some outliers. If we have followed the best practices for design and collect, so these irregularities we can negate or we can avoid if we have followed the best practices. But suppose by any chance we were not able to follow those best practices, then these irregularities may come into your data, and we need to be very sure, we need to be very uh, thorough about our data set, whether it contains any missing value, duplicates, redundancy, and if it is there, we need to first remove all those things. So this irregularity should be removed. This comes under the processing. Then again, perform a thorough data validation. Be sure that your data is correct. You need to do data curation, cleaning, some advanced thing if required. There are other software for that. Like we can use Open Refine for that. We can use R also, Python also. Based on your requirement, we have different softwares for that data curation and cleaning, and use of standard software for data analysis and visualization. So once everything is okay, then we can go for actual data analysis and visualization. And this data analysis and visualization, there is no any standard recommendation of best practices for that, because it depends on the individual how they want to perceive the data set and how they want to analyze the data set. So it depends on person to person. If you'll give same data set to 10 different person, so the 10 different person will come up with 10 different insights. This is the possibility, because how they are going to perceive the data set depends on that. So it is person to person. So for analysis, there is no that 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 kind of some any recommendation for best practice. But yes, we should be using some standard tools or softwares for the data analysis and visualization. This is the only thing. So after process analyze, we need to archive and preserve the data set, and this is again earlier also I have emphasized on that. So this is the phase where actual research data management, I'll say, starts. And this is the phase where we are preparing for the reuse of dataset, because in my opinion, we cannot totally exhaust the data. Okay, whenever we are doing our research project, so we will not be able to totally exhaust the data set. So it should be available for the public, it should be available for the further reuse, so that if in future we want to generate some other insights, we want to come up with some other findings, it should be available to the public. And how it will be available to the public? If you are doing the archiving, the preservation of data properly. So what are the different ways what we can do is, so we need to deposit your data in an open data repository of your choice. There are different choices available for depositing your data. Okay, so if you want to go for some open data repositories, Zenodo is there, Tried is there, Fixair is there. Mendeley data is like for publications. If you are publishing your paper in Elsevier journals, science direct journals. So for them, they use mainly data. For IEEE journals, there's data port. So there are different for, I think, agriculture domain, Guardian is there, data pool is database where you can deposit data. So there are different options available. So based on your choice, based on your requirement, you can choose a data repository. And if it is open data repository, that is the most suitable thing. And you need to choose and you need to deposit your data there. And if your institution has an institutional data repository, every institution is recommended to have an institutional data repository. So if your institution has an institutional data repository, submit your data in your institutional repository also. It will be accessible to your organizational members, and if the institution wants to give access to other organization members, then they can give, and they can have different restrictions on the data use and all. So it is recommended to have an institutional data repository. Then again, while depositing your data, attach very rich metadata. Okay, whatever we need to explain or we need to describe our data set to the extent we can do. Okay, we need to attach very comprehensive metadata. Okay, whatever we can attach. So for data sets, we have different metadata standards that we can do, we can use. Some of the standards are data site metadata schema is there. So we can use data set metadata schema for attaching metadata. We can use DDI is there, data documentation initiative. Metadata schema is there. Then there something called DCAT is there. So these are some of the metadata schemas that we can use to describe our data set. And this is very important because it is the metadata only that will enable the discovery of your data set. Okay. So this is very good practice to attach rich metadata. Then we need to ensure that the repository where we are submitting our dataset gives unique identifier to your dataset. Okay, so if you'll submit your data to Genedo, so they will give you a DOI for your dataset. If you'll submit your dataset to Mendeley Data or Dryad or Fixair, so they have the mechanism that after submission, they will give you a unique identifier that is called the DOIs for the dataset. So it is very important to locate your data set in future. Okay, and this DOIs, the uniqueness about this DOIs is uh, they store the metadata also with them. Okay, so this DOIs, if you have the DOIs of the data set, so you can have the all metadata with you. So it is very important practice to ensure that repository gives unique identifier. And store your data set in universally interoperable formats. Yes, this is again a very important point and very good practice. So whenever you are storing your data set, so try to store it in universally acceptable or universally interoperable formats. So what are the universally interoperable formats? So suppose if it is a tabular data, so try to store your data in TSB or CSV. Okay, rather than using this .xls format. Why? Because this .xls is a proprietary and it is not open source, or you can say, because we all know that MS Excel is not open source. MS Excel is a paid software, and this particular format is a proprietary format. So suppose if you'll share your data set and somebody is not having this particular software MS Excel with them, though it is a very common software, and I guess everybody, 99% people must be having this software. But think of some other formats of the data set where these proprietary softwares are not available. So we need to be very much aware of whatever, based on the type of the data, what are the universally acceptable or universally interoperable formats available, and we need to store our data set in that format only, so that the communication, the integration and interoperability, everything will be easier later on in the future, and that will only enable the reuse of data. Because if you have shared your data but that is in some different format, that is not Excel, like that is not reusable to somebody else, I'm unable to reuse that because the format is different, I don't have the access to that format, so that is of no use. But if it is in universally acceptable format, so we can easily transform this .csv to any tabular data format, whether it is XLS or ODT or anything. Okay, so we need to try to store our data set in this particular format. Very important point. Then for sharing, this is the, I think, final phase, or after this is, I think, a reuse is there. So for sharing, so you need to develop your data sharing plan or strategy in advance. So once your research is over, your data is done, you have prepared. So how you want to share your data set, that is also you need to decide. Okay, what licenses you want to use, whether they are Creative Commons licenses, CC0 is there, that is the least restrictive license. So whether you want to use CC0 or some other CC BY, CCN. So there are various Creative Commons licenses are there. So what licenses you want to use while sharing your data set, that you need to decide upon. And you need to use appropriate licenses. So for that, we need to have knowledge about the licenses, what licenses and what kind of restrictions. So you can decide upon that. Then define clearly the potential users with whom the data will be shared. So who are the potential users of the data set? That also, if you can define, that is very good, because like not every data is useful for everybody. Okay, so if you have defined the potential users, that is very good. Then we need to clearly define accessibility terms, on which terms you are going to give access, whether it will be open access. Anything is there? Okay. Snehasis, you want to say anything or what? I think by mistake is unmute. So Nitesh, can you just mute him? Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so what accessibility terms you want to give to your users, whether whatever data you have, you want to share it in open access forum, relatively accessible to all, openly, publicly, and or we want to have restricted access. What restricted access means is, so it will be subscription based or authorization based access, or it will be accessible to your only the institutional members who has the institutional IDs. So these kind of access we call it as restricted access, or the closed access, you can say. Okay, or no access also we can. So no, I just want to store it in private manner. I can only access, or my colleagues who are involved in such project only, they can access. So these accessibility terms you can decide in your data sharing plan or policy. Then comes the final phase, that is the reuse phase, and this is the phase for what we are talking about this whole workshop or anything. Reuse of data, reuse of everything, this fair principle, research data, everything is coming upon the reuse of data. Okay, so that we can make our research data reusable. Okay, so again, for that, how we can make data reusable is, we need to define the potential users of the data set, then interoperate data format. Okay, interoperable data format. If we have taken care of this thing, then our data will be reusable. Detailed documentation, because sometimes it is very difficult to draw context of the data set. So, but if the documentation is available for the data set, so anybody can read the documentation and they can get the context, the proper context of the data, and they can make use of that data. So detailed documentation is required with the research data. Then defined reusability terms and guidelines, licenses, then the accessibility terms. These all things are very important whenever we are preparing our data set for the reuse. Okay, and there are some other things also that we need to take care while sharing our data set. First thing is the data privacy. Okay, so before sharing or before making it available for the reuse, this particular thing, data privacy, is very important, that we need to take care, especially whenever we are dealing with some data which has personal identifiable information. In agriculture sector also, we need to survey the households, we need to survey the farmers, that contains some kind of personal information. So while sharing those kind of data set, we need to be very careful, and because there are some laws for data privacy also that we need to comply with. Every country has their own laws, so we need to be very thorough, we need to be very careful about those lower laws and all. So whenever we are dealing with sensitive data, with ethical or legal issues, so the thing is, how we can do is we need to attach a clear note if your dataset contains PII. PII was personal identifiable information. If your dataset contains PII, we need to give a note, clear note that this particular dataset contains PII. And if you have the consent from the person like whose data you are carrying, if you have the consent to share data as it is, then only you share that data as it is. Otherwise, you need to anonymize that data set. So data anonymization is a very important thing here. If you don't have the consent to share the personal information, better to anonymize that data and then only you share that data. And you need to comply with the in-country policies and guidelines. In India also, we have data privacy law. So we need to comply with those in-country policies and guidelines. Okay, then only we need to share this any data set which has PII. So data privacy is again a very important, because we should not be breaching any data privacy laws. Okay, while sharing or while like advocating for this open science and open data thing and all. So for this presentation, these are the references I have used. Thank you very much. I am open for discussion now, for a short discussion. And there are some times I'll try to go for some this data management plans as well. Little bit very short description about that. So if you have any question till now from this presentation, please ask. I'll try to take a few of the questions.
Any questions from the participants regarding research data management or what sir has covered till now? I think we can proceed, sir.
Okay. So if there is no question till now, I don't know whether no question is a scenario where you understood everything. Either you have understood everything or you haven't you haven't understood anything. So I don't know. So I'll give credit to me that you have understood everything. So that is why you are not asking the question. So again, these things I have uh, already covered in the previous section. So research is very important, very crucial for the scientific development of a society and prosperity of the society, and requires huge funding, infrastructure, resources, support, everything we require. Okay. And research data, whether it is in qualitative form or the quantitative form or in both form, it is indeed the primary component that conveys the research findings and implications, and it continues to revolutionize the areas of research, business, and governance. So this is just a brief introduction. So again, these questions I have already discussed. So what is the data management plan? So data management plan, the whole concept is built upon three terms: data management and the plan. Okay, so it involves identification, collection, preparation, organization, classification, processing, analysis, storage, publishing, curation, and reuse of data. Okay, so why we're creating this data management plan, it serves all these purposes. Okay, that is why we are doing. So in a formal manner, if we have to say what is a data management plan, so data management plan is a document. It is in the shape of a document, and it clearly lays out all the necessary actions, all the necessary measures for better management of data, covering all the aspects of the data lifecycle. So we have already seen the data lifecycle. So at each stage of data lifecycle, what are the strategies, what are the plans uh, uh, we're trying to do at each stage of data lifecycle, whatever we are planning to do for better data management, this particular document carries that. Okay, so simply if you have to say, DMP is a brief plan to define how data will be created, how it will be documented, where it will be stored, transferred, backed up during the project or after the project, how it will be shared and preserved, how access will be granted to the. So whatever I have discussed till now, so it all comes into a document called data management plan. Whatever I have discussed till now in the research data management, it becomes a form of a document that is called data management plan. And it is basically prepared by the researcher, the principal investigator, or the co-principal investigator in collaboration with the data librarian or the library professionals. Okay, because there are some administrative information required. There are like library professionals has the knowledge of data meta test standards, vocabularies, and all. Okay, so in that case, researchers or the PIs or the co-PIs can take help of the alliance professionals or the data managers or the data librarians uh, to create this data management plan. Okay, and to give further context, it is very essential to note here that in our counterpart countries like in USA or UK's, submitting a data management plan is a mandate. Whenever you are submitting a proposal, any research proposal, you need to mandatorily submit a data management plan. Then only your proposal will be accepted, and then only you will be granted with any funding. In India, we have not yet started with this data management plan, but soon it is going to come because I have seen some discussions about this particular data management plan in ICSSR projects also, in some agriculture projects also. Okay, submitting a data management plan is necessary right now. So soon, I think Indian government or Indian policymakers will also adopt this particular concept. But in US, UK, everywhere it is mandatory to have a data management plan. And and that is why this the role of a research data services librarian is also very increasing, because those are the person who are very much skilled in this particular thing. They can assist their researcher, they can ease the work of the researcher in managing the research data. So this is very much important. This particular concept is very much important. Just a minute. Yeah. Yeah, so I've already explained this why DMP is important. Funding bodies have mandated the submission of DMP as a necessary condition for grant of research. These are some of the big funders. Name you can see: National Science Foundation, Wellcome Trust. They have mandated the submission of DMPs. Again, there are various other benefits of having a DMP that I think I've already covered. What are the benefits you'll be getting with good research data management, having a data management plan? So these are some of the benefits. I'm not going in detail. So who are the stakeholders of DMPs? Obviously, it is the principal and the co-principal investigators, because they are the ultimate responsible for the data. Then the data managers, they are involved in day-to-day management of data management activities. Then the primary research organizations, they have compliance roles, the whom we are working with. Then library, IT, legal sales. Then the secondary research organization, commercial partners, others like other under others, the governments or the general public will be actually using the data. So this DMP will be helpful for them also. So we need to create a DMP. There are three phases of DMP that we need to create. The first phase is called the minimal plan. So this is submitted whenever you are submitting a research proposal to any funding agency. And this is very much important from the funder's perspective. They will evaluate your research proposal based on this particular DMP, the first phase DMP, that how you are going to manage your data. And why they require this data management plan is because they want to save their resources, whatever funding they are providing you, whatever effort they are putting into you, whatever infrastructure they are giving to you, whatever resources they are giving to you, they want to make use of that. They want to intact those resources because they want to manage the data in such a manner that it will be available for public, it will be available for reuse. And that is why they want this data management plan from you. So once you have submitted your plan, this is the first place plan, it is submitted during the research project. Once your project is started, your project is suppose granted, okay, your funding is granted and you have started your project, then we need to create a second phase DMP that is called the core plan. Okay, and this is important from the perspective of the researcher, because during the research project, you should know how you are going to manage the research, how you are going to manage your data during the ongoing research process. So this is beneficial for your purpose, for the researcher purpose. And once your research is over, we need to go to the third phase of DMP, that is called the full plan. And it is important, it is like significant from a general perspective. It is useful for the funders also, it is useful for the researchers also, librarians, users, data curators, those whoever will be using this particular data, this particular full plan will be helpful for them. So these are some of the phases where we need to create data management plans. These things I'm skipping in view of time constraint, how DMPs contribute towards open data and fair. Some theoretical thing is there that I've already explained, or tomorrow when I'll be discussing fair, I'll explain. So these are some of the tools I was discussing, how to create a DMP. So to create a DMP, there are two ways. One thing is you can just simply have a document writer, MS Word, LibreOffice, Google Docs, anything, and you just start preparing by your own. Okay, and there are different funders have their templates. NSF, National Science Foundation, have their template. Wellcome Trust has their template. European Commission has their template. In India, because we don't have this tendency to create data management plan, we don't have a template right now. But I myself is working on a template, and soon it will be published. Then I think we can adopt the template and we can use this data management template for that. But there are various web-based open source DMP tool is available, like DSW I was talking about, Data Stewardship Wizard, then EasyDMP, DMP Online, DMP tool, and there are other various tools available. And these are open source tool available that we can go and use to create the data management plans. I have my publication on this particular topic. So I have evaluated 14 data management plan tools, and they're based on various parameters. If anybody is interested in that paper, I can share that paper with you guys. Uh, and you can go through that paper and you can just have a very comprehensive idea about this particular topic, data management plan. So there, as I said, we have some DMP templates that is funder specific also. Sometimes it is domain specific also. For agriculture domain, we have different DMP templates. For medicine domain, we have different DMP templates. So it is funder specific also, and it is domain specific also. So this part I'm speaking, skipping, yeah. So this I wanted to show. This is the DCC default DMP template. DCC is what? Data Curation Center. It is a data curation center available in UK. So they have given a default template for data management plans. So they have segregated it into 7 different formats. So first thing is data collection. So DMP templates, what? It has some questions, okay, related to your plan. So under data collection, you can see here what they're asking: what data will you collect or create? You need to answer that. Then how will the data be collected or created? So under data collection, they are asking two kind of questions. So you need to be very elaborative, very descriptive while answering this question, and based on your understanding, based on your planning, you can answer these questions. Then after data collection, we have documentation and metadata. So they are asking what documentation and metadata will accompany the data. So for this question, I think you need to take help from your data librarian or somebody else who has the proper knowledge of documentation and metadata standards. Here you can involve or collaborate with your alliance professionals or your available research data librarian, anybody. Then any ethics or legal compliance with the data. Here you need to explain how will you manage any ethical issues. If your data has any ethical issues, you need to explain here and how you're going to manage them. How will you manage copyright and IPR issues? Okay, how copyright will be shared, how IPR you're going to manage. These things you need to, and again, I think for this also you need to consult your librarian. Then storage and backup related to question. So how will the data be stored and backed up during the research? How will you manage access and security? Okay, so this question you need to answer. Then selection and preservation, how long-term preservation will be ensured, and like what data you need to ensure for the long term. And data sharing, like how you are going to share your data, any restriction you want to imply on data sharing, responsibilities and resources, who will be responsible for data management, what resources will be required to deliver your plan. So this is a very basic template shared by Digital Curation Center from UK, and that we can follow to create a data management plan. And this particular thing is from my paper that I was discussing. This is a very comprehensive list of elements that we can have in a data management plan. Okay, this This we have brought after comparing 14 tools and different funder templates, and then we come up with this particular you can say parameters that we can have in a data management plan. So this is from our paper. If somebody is interested, I can share that paper with you guys. You can go in detail and have. So yeah, so this is very brief introduction about data management plans. And this ends my presentation here. If you have any question, please ask. Don't hesitate. This is very, you can say, emerging area of research right now, data management plan in all the domains that I've already explained, especially in agriculture domain. And I worked with an organization where they're giving very much importance to this particular research data management thing now. So you can ask any question if you have. Okay. Thank you very much.